Welcome to the Growth Leaders Pod, where we uncover the strategies, insights, and stories behind effective leadership in today's dynamic industries. I'm thrilled to introduce our distinguished guest for today's episode, Professor Joe Schmitt, a titan in the field of pharmaceuticals and vaccine development. Retired as Vice President for Medical Development and Scientific Affairs for viral vaccines at Pfizer, Professor Schmitt has left an indelible mark on the landscape of global health. But his journey doesn't stop there. Currently serving as editor-in-chief at Global Health Press Singapore and as a scientific and strategic advisor at Vaccelerate University at Cologne. With a background as a former 10-year chair of Standing Committee of Vaccination and as a professor for infectious diseases and vaccine development, Professor Schmitt's insights into ethical leadership, crisis management, and the intersection of science and humanity are unparalleled. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the esteemed Professor Joe Schmitt to the Growth Leaders podcast. That's some background, Joe.
Thank you very much. I guess this comes with age, right? So thank you very much, and it's an honor for me to be here.
Yeah, it's just great having you here. And I'm just going to kick off with some history, and we're going to jump straight into the pandemic. And we're going to talk a little bit about your involvement in an organization called Vaccelerate, which is a clinical research network led by University Hospital in Cologne. And let's start with the pandemic side. So when we spoke last time, and I look back to 1340, then it said that the pest was coming. It was 75 million people died approximately at that time. Now, very recently, we had COVID-19, and the latest figures is around 7 million. Both were pandemics, wasn't it?
Well, we have had pandemics in the past. The main difference between past pandemics and today is the population side and their frequency and intensity. So they say around 2,000 years ago, and let's start there were 200 million people on Earth. Today we are about 8 billion. At the same time, the speed of travel has increased dramatically. You can be within 48 hours on any point on the globe. So with that in mind, it is very easy to understand while if a pandemic is there, if there is an organism that causes severe disease with a high frequency and which is transmissible from human to human, that are the prerequisites: severe disease and easy transmissibility. If that is somewhere on the globe, it will be on any other point within a week, probably within less than a week. So that is the main point, is population density and frequency and intensity of exposure. That is the main difference between today and past pandemics. So we have huge nations who are, that we call it the breeding reservoir for organisms. Once they are infected, they cannot respond, but they transmit easily the organism. So many things have changed on the human side, which is largely behavior, exposure, population density. The organisms have been around all the time, and now they start causing pandemics.
So one of the big difference here is the speed. So and speed. Yeah, and how often do pandemics appear when you look at, so if we just take the last 100 years, for example, how many pandemics have we had? And I guess the most are fairly isolated, or I don't know. On pandemic, maybe the definition is it's
in the past, let's say, Yersinia pestis calling pest. You had it basically in one place, and if that was closed down or if there was limited exposure to neighboring villages and places or to another country, it took years before it then reached another place. Today, again, with travel, that's a matter of hours or days to have it in any other place. Actually, I'm close to Frankfurt now. I will be in Cologne in 4 hours. I will be back to another place later on. I will travel on a vacation to southern Germany, and I will be in Singapore for 2 weeks. So this is different, right? So we have that We have that all the time. To answer the question specifically, when the pandemics occur, depending on how you define them, every 10 to 30 years. And that is the time the organism needs to rearrange in a way to escape the human immune system. For coronavirus, we now have had outbreaks and one pandemic, let's say every 10 years. So that is just two numbers. And I'm pretty sure there will be coronavirus outbreaks, maybe in 10 years again, right? So that would be 2029. We will have influenza pandemics again. The last one was 2009, so at 10 years that would be 2019, so that's more than due. It is overdue. And if you say it is 13 years, then it would be, maybe 2039. And then there are 300,000 RNA viruses in animals ready to jump to humans. That is, we call it disease X, or WHO calls it disease X. We don't know what happens. There is one other item that we need to have in mind, and that is type of exposures. When I started medicine, we were taught 3 sexually transmitted diseases. Today, when I speak about sexually transmitted diseases, I call the lecture the top 10. And that has to be with our behavior, and things change over time for various reasons that we don't need to discuss here. With our behavior, we change exposures, and with new exposures, there are new infectious diseases.
So if we then look at the vaccines coming out, for example, now on the COVID-19, what is it really the vaccine can treat here or prevent? Because I think it's spreading anyhow, even though you're vaccinated.
Yeah.
How does that? Because I think could be a misunderstanding out in society, because we have those who really are against, etc. But how does this work?
Great pause. So let me say, regular vaccines like measles, 2 different doses, and from all we know today, you're protected for life. It is the same as if you had the disease, you won't get it again, with some rare exceptions where manipulate and destroy your immune system, you won't get measles again. The vaccines for respiratory tract infections don't do that. They induce immunity that does not protect lifelong. You do need boosters depending on every year for influenza and probably for COVID, but maybe every 10 years for pertussis. It may be a little bit longer for whatever type of other organisms, but in the end, the important difference is reduction of acquisition and carriage. So let's say the pneumococcus gets in the throat of children, and once children are vaccinated, they don't have it in their throat anymore. They cannot transmit it to others. So that is a unique situation where acquisition and carriage is reduced. Regular respiratory tract, influenza as the 2 main examples, they don't do that. They don't reduce carriage in a meaningful or in a big enough way, in a large enough way to really have an impact. And that is why people are stuck with being infected and still have some disease. The good news is they are protected from dying. There is so much data now on that. Severe disease is prevented and death is prevented, but not infection. Unfortunately, nobody told people that this is the fact.
It seemed also, at least early on in the pandemic, latest with COVID-19, that they nearly got into political fights about the different vaccines. We got the Russian, and we got small top ones, and then you have the big ones doing that. And could everyone actually produce working vaccines for the people around the world?
Yes or no? If you know how to do it, you can do it, right? And you can do it fast. The issue is that I'll give you the handbook how to fly an A380, an Airbus 380. You can read it for a year and learn everything, but you wouldn't be able to fly it. So giving away the patent for something doesn't help. You need to know, and you need the experience. And one manager told me 30 years ago, and it still applies today, for producing a vaccine, you need gut feeling. And this is totally, I didn't accept with at the time, because I thought this is science, right? You do everything as it is in your handbook, and that's it. That's not it, right? There is much more about it. You need gut feeling for production of a vaccine, apparently, and you know how to do it. So the demand, give away the package for everybody is very nice, and I appreciate it, and I'm behind it. But it doesn't help. You really need to have experience. There is one other item with vaccines different from medicines, the factory sizes. And that is one advantage of vaccines manufacturing. You won't have much competition. The factory for a vaccine, if you have to build it from the scratch, will mean anywhere between some 100 million to 500 million, depending on what you want to produce. And then you need to license it, which means you need to produce a vaccine, you need to vaccinate subjects in a clinical trial. So it's a huge enterprise. You cannot simply say, we produce whatever type of vaccine wherever tomorrow in another place, like one more. This is the framework for vaccine production and application that we need for the future, for the pandemics, for the next influenza pandemic. We need production capacity. We need factories. We need to have vaccine very early on. If you have your vaccine available 4 weeks earlier, that has an impact on the number of people who died. So this is something really very important what you brought up here. Should capacity and who is doing it, how is it run, how is it organized. So there is very much room for improvement.
And then there is, as we saw also, in the different ways of handling in the countries, clearly Sweden, for example, where we have a high death rate early on, but we had also very lower protection for the elderly, and there was a lot of new people coming in and out and so on. But on the other side, later on, we didn't have that much protection as other countries closed down everything and so on. And in the end, it evens out pretty much. So I don't know. Could the EU get together here on a same way how to handle these things to make them efficient handling next time, or are there complications because it's different countries and so on?
In the next pandemic, will be new challenges. And in the end, vaccine licensure is one thing. You get a vaccine license if the vaccine is effective and safe. That are the two criteria, safety and efficacy. If that is a given, you have a license. But as you point out, the real issue then is who should we vaccinate, in which order, and what do we need for vaccine uptake to be effective. And that is an individual country political decision. Right. It depends on your culture. It depends on your values. It depends on what is acceptable. It depends on the opportunities to vaccinate. So there are many decision points that need to be made.
Okay. So when you were involved here as an advisor in Vaccelerate, what were the key challenges you faced then in accelerating the vaccine development timelines for the COVID-19? And how did you address and while maintaining ethical standards and patient safety? Because here we're looking for speed and get something out. How were those discussions? Because I guess you have to move the bar a little bit due to the time issues here.
So the first decision was the decision of silver CEOs in single companies. We go for it, which means a 1 billion investment at risk. If you come up with a new vaccine, chances that you are successful to get a license today is 10%. So it is a 1 billion, 10% success opportunity. The second then is you need to collaborate. Vaccine policy is collaboration policy. You need to collaborate with the licensing authorities. There are two main licensing authorities around the globe. That is EMA and that is FDA. And then there are, let's say, 130, 150 licensing agencies around the globe in individual countries. You need to inform them what you plan, and you need to be in touch with them if they accept your development plan. So you tell them, this is the type of study that we want to do. This is the humans. We want to speed it up. We do this and that. And you need them to agree to it. And there they are responsible to prove that the vaccine you develop and the data they receive in the sequence they receive it, they indicate or they document efficacy and safety. So this is the challenge, to work together, to make it a priority. Make it a priority means you look at everything else. Many things were not done during COVID. And I can tell you from those companies who really produce vaccine on short notice or develop vaccines in short notice, everything went in parallel. Like you had your idea about the border, you developed the first experimental vaccines for animal testing. At the same time, you got your factories ready. So it was really a broad parallel development at the same time with many, many stakeholders involved. So this was a huge and very unique enterprise. Honestly, some companies did not embark on it. Some companies, vaccine manufacturers, did not really come up with a COVID vaccine, at least not on time.
No, I can understand that. It's a giant work there. So let's move a little bit to the leadership side here. Given your background in infectious disease and vaccine development, so what unique leadership strategies are required when researching diseases, especially in terms of risk management, public health? Are there specific practices or strategies you have worked with or developed to get things to happen and work under the ethical standards, which is also needed?
Yeah. The pharmaceutical industry today is very much regulated. And coming from Pfizer paid large amounts of money for wrongdoings in the past. And when I joined, that was past already. And I can tell you, compliance was a pain in the neck of our daily work. And it still is, right? I see my colleagues in Pfizer. I don't want to say they're suffering through this, but there are a lot of restrictions. So today, if there is an industry-sponsored symposium at a conference like I attended ECMIDRES, your slides will go through many internal departments, and that takes a long time, but every single department will check if what you say is correct and proven by the reference. This is unbelievable. At the university, my university experience ended in 2007. Nobody ever checked what I said at a public meeting. Nobody ever checked it. It was my policy, and if I said something wrong, I went to court, but not the university. So for industry, this has really, really changed. Look, I wanted to show a new slide to explain carriage is important for respiratory pathogens. I couldn't show it because of the COVID time. Or another time I had a slide where I had no reference because it was my idea. But there was no reference, so I couldn't show it. So it has become very, very regulated, and at least the big pharmaceutical companies that I know of, yes, they have competition, but if there is no unethical behavior anymore. Look, there are always criminal people, right? And I don't want to rule out that in any company some people think of something that is totally wrong. But the regulations are so strong today that I even think we have gone a little bit too far, right? That is my perception. In the beginning, or very early on, 20 years ago, there wasn't much, and now it may be a little bit too much. But
and that brings me really, you get really nearly a political environment there, which has to be tackled. But in order then to take the next step for these organizations, and how do you foster collaboration? Because I believe that has to be one of the key progress factors, collaboration network, collaboration knowledge sharing among interdisciplinary teams when researching, for example, highly contagious viruses, while upholding their ethical values. If you are getting stuck, you still have to work. So how does that happen, and how do you drive those interdisciplinary collaborations.
In a company that is very simple, your boss tells you you'll get this vaccine licensed. So that is the goal, and everybody is committed to reach the goal. Now you have intellectual property. They tell you what you can say publicly and what not, and what the rules are for sharing information. You have compliance, who tells you what is the framework of what you can do and say. You have the regulatory, who tell you how the study should look like to make it happen to get a license. And if you don't follow the rules, you may have a nice vaccine, but nobody will be able to use it because it will not be licensed. Then you have research and development, who discuss with you about the amount of antigen, the schedule, and that type of thing. And then you, as a medical person, may say, this is a stupid study, it doesn't work. But then research and development tells you that the biology of the organism is in a way that you cannot use the regular schedule, you have to use something else. So this is a huge discussion in industry. This is focused. You are in a team, and the challenge of a team is to reach the goal. Now, with Vaccelerate, that is a little bit different. It's just the consortium. And there, the common goal is to run a study or something, but you have to agree on it. And it's not sort of like a team committed in the same company or in the same framework, but it is more the individuals come together, and they all have different interests, right? Everybody goes a little bit in a different direction. And that is why it is very complicated. And there, I think the European Union still has to find a way to create effective teams throughout Europe. It is not yet the type of teams that I see in industry.
And that takes time, and and it's very much up to the individuals agreeing on a common objective to reach that. But reflecting on your leadership journey, what are some key lessons you have learned about effectively managing and motivating teams in the pharmaceutical research sector? Do you have any standards or some key lessons you have learned? It could have been things which you did in the early days, which you would not do today. Or it could be something you are so proud of. Yeah, this is lessons I really would like to share.
Yeah, I think my main principles for a good leader would be integrity and transparency. You have to tell people early on what it is all about. You have to avoid a situation where people are afraid of what will happen and not knowing what is going to happen. So you have to be very transparent with all decisions, and you have to have team discussions where everything is on the table and you don't hide anything. And people have to trust you. But that is the main principles. Then you certainly need discussions, but at the same time, you have to make decisions. And I think that what is going wrong today in many companies is committee to come up with a decision. And I think in the end, you may have a committee to find out the arguments, but then somebody has to make the decision. I think this is my main principle. And again, today, what happens wrongly in many companies is sharing responsibility. That doesn't work, I believe, right? The leader has to take the responsibility after good team discussions with all the arguments on the table. That is my main learning after 14 years in a medical profession.
Yeah, and that goes very, very much hand in hand, at least with if we look at the Swedish leadership, because it is a lot of discussion, etc. But in the end, you as a leader have to make the decision. So if you had some newbies coming in as leaders, what advices would you give them moving into the pharmaceutical industry based on looking back at your journey? What should they think about, taking, of course, your considerations about your leadership?
Yes, you will go with leadership. You should be yourself and not try to copy something. And you should always stand up to your own values and views, and be able to make decisions and accept that you will make wrong decisions. My standard was the German army standard, which is if your decisions are correct 70% of the time, you're a good leader. And I think one question that I always ask people when hiring them is, which was your biggest wrong decision and which was the biggest financial failure? And it is really surprising people come up with minor things first, right? I bought a wrong car or whatever. But in the end, they don't tell you, or only after some thinking. They don't want to hide it, but only after some thinking. They block it out, right? It is a psychological trauma. They block it out and then, gee, yeah, that study decision was wrong and the study was worth 10 million. So look, this happens all the time. And again, the success rate for a new vaccine is 10% if you start from the idea. So leaders today in pharmaceutical industry make wrong decisions all the time, normally destroying 1 billion. 9 out of 10 times. And you have to be aware of that, and you have to accept this. And I think this is very important, that you go out and still act. And have your criteria on the table in the team, have a wide discussion, get many arguments as wide as possible, but then at some point make a decision, say, hey or nay.
I think those are,
sorry.
yeah, I think those are good questions you have there, because that also gives an answer on how they reason on problem solving, and how they reflect upon their problem solving when it went wrong.
Yeah.
If I look at the leadership as of today, one of the big problems we see is that people tend to use one, maybe two ways to solve problems, but they don't see the difference in complexity and that you need different approaches in the problem solving due to its complexity. And that's why you also get wrong outcomes sometimes.
Yeah. If I may add one thing. In your team,
yes, please.
You should have disruptive people. You have to make sure you have people who disagree with what you say. And then you debate and you still make the decision that you think is right. But the last thing is having yes people in your teams. Only yes people, right? You can have a few who do their good work, whatever, that is fine. But you need to have disruptive people having a different view. They should pay up the point.
It goes very well into the diverse discussions of today. So you've had a very active career involved in many, many things. So how have you handled your professional side and your personal side? I presume you have a few friends work which actually keeps that side up, and maybe family, I don't know. But how have you done that? And how do you do it still today? What are your interests outside work?
I was an organist for over 10 years when I studied medicine. I played the piano in a wine bar here in Wiesbaden, close by Frankfurt. So music is my hobby. I even studied music for a year and then I changed to medicine. And very clearly, you please have these, right? I play a little bit of piano still every day if possible. But you have to make decisions. It's music or medicine. You cannot have it both. And then I'm married. I'm married to the beautiful musician. She's a fluteist. She's taught the flute and she still teaches the flute. And we have 2 children, 2 beautiful young daughters. Actually, young, they're better dust, I know. And yeah, you have to make decisions, and at some point, your daughters will tell you tell her too much. You're always down. My daughter was once asked in school, what is your talk of your father? And her answer was not a medical doctor or anything, but she said he's traveling. So, this is the situation and you cannot change it. You have to have the backer from the family. They have to accept that they're doing it. And if they're not willing to do it, then you have to reduce. Then you have to choose something different if the family is important to you. I think the main point of leadership is to make conscious decisions. Is that what you want? And maybe from one book, and I forgot where I read this, you start with the end in mind. At your graveyard, what do you want people to say about you? Do they want them to say he was a great scientist, or do you want them to say he was a great family father? Or both, or how hard to both? And I guess being The purpose of your question is really to start from the end, and you have to say what is important to you, what is the meaning of your life, what do you want to achieve in life. And again, you cannot have it all because time is limited.
Thank you, Joe. This is great having you on the Growth Leaders podcast, and your insights are so valuable and exciting. And I would like to thank you so much for today.
Thank you, Peter. It was a
Thank you.
pleasure. It was a pleasure to be interviewed today. Thank you very much.
Thanks.